It's Saturday morning. It's 9 o'clock. Yes, it's time once again for the Monster Magic Saturday show. Let's do this.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning. Feel the sun shining for your eyes.
Woohoo! Good morning, everybody. I hope you have had a lovely week, and just a word of warning, because yes, the man is back.
I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough.
The rants and tantrums that we all love, and I just can't seem to get enough of Gray. But first up, we've got Hopping Dice by TCC. This is a take on Hopping Halves or Confusing Coins by William Boyd, who I think came up with it in the 60s. If you're not familiar with the coin trick, it's a very similar plot. You clearly show that you've got two dice in your hand, a gold die and a silver die. You take a silver die and you put it in your pocket, you click your fingers and it reappears back into your hand. You then take the silver die again, put it in your pocket, and it reappears back into your hand. You then take the gold die, put it in your pocket, it reappears back into your hand, and take another gold die again, put it back into your pocket, it appears back into your hand, and you end up with two genuine working dice that you can go on and do any other trick with involving dice that you may or may not know. Very similar plot to the Hopping Halves. With the Hopping Halves, though, you end up with your hand being empty, and that's a much nicer conclusion. So with the Hopping Halves, you have a silver coin and a copper coin, usually a $50 and an English penny, for example, and you end up with an empty hand, and that's a nice resolution to the trick. With this, you end up with the two dice, genuine dice, in your hand. I have been playing with it, and it is possible to end empty-handed. They don't teach it, and it's a bit awkward to sort of orientate. There's a couple more moves involved, but it is possible if you're really keen on that. But personally, I would just go on and do something with the dice, or just put them away. They do actually teach two other routines as well if the Hopping Halves is an up your street. A nice one where you take two die out of a purse, you vanish one and it reappears back inside the purse. And a third one, which is a lovely transposition, where you put the silver die, for example, in their hand, you put the gold one on top, the gold one changes to the silver, they open their hand and they've got the gold one. And that's nice because it happens in their hands. So it's quite a little versatile set to play with. Let me show you what you get in the box, because this is what TCC do so well. You get some genuine die and some shells. They are really well made, as you'd expect. Now they are metal die, and so they are surprisingly heavy and weighty, which is really nice. They are pretty beautiful. You do get your fingerprints all over them pretty quickly, so you might want to carry a cloth just to clean them up a bit. So I don't know if I can show you both of them there. So that's the gold one, that's the silver one. I won't show you the gimmicks, but they are equally well made, well machined, to a great deal of accuracy. And these are really nice dice. So if you were going to do a dice routine, they will add an element of elegance and professionalism. So although you are left with them at the end, if you have got a routine that involves a random number being rolled, for example, these are ideal for that. I've always been a big fan of the Hopping Halves effect. It's one of the few coin tricks that I actually do. I think it's a lot of fun, and the die do make it slightly more amazing because of their size and shape. It is possibly stronger magic. You do have to do a couple of sort of orientations of the die that you don't have to do with a coin, for example, because they've got more sides. The tutorial is really well taught, with a little sort of performance to camera and then a detailed explanation. You probably will need a purse or something to carry them around in. That's all I would suggest. You want to keep these pretty precious. You want to keep them, store them with the shells on, because these, if you don't want these to get crushed or banged up too much. And you really do get a lot for your money. I would suggest that if I was performing this, I would start with the first sort of three phases of the Hopping Halves and then end with the in your hand transposition. That makes a lot of sense and brings it to a nice conclusion. And the size and the shape and even the weight of the dice really do add something to the visuals of the hopping halves. And that's it really. You're getting a beautiful set of gimmicked dice that are absolutely gorgeous. You're getting 3 effects. I'd combine 2 for some strong magic that's very easy to do. That is Hopping Dice by TCC, 62.99. Okay, let's do this. It's The Infinity Deck by Craig Petty and Lloyd Barnes. 2 big names in Magic. It is the big release of last week, possibly the biggest release of the year so far. Anything with Craig's name on it gets a lot of interest. And the idea is it's a deck of cards, another deck of cards by Craig. This time they're made to look like a creative mindset deck of cards, imagery cards to help an artist or a writer come up with stories and plots and so on. That sort of thing does exist, and the box and the cards, everything else looks like that is what they genuinely could be. The box right from the start has a few little features. It's got some text in the end which helps with a couple of the reveals, or a couple of the effects, and it's got a small little crib on there as well, but there isn't very much to remember, so if you're needing the crib, I'll be very, very surprised. And like I say, it just looks like something that you might pick up in a shop. And the cards are, of course, beautifully printed, beautifully made, really nice cardstock. They handle terrifically. You could use, you could do any of your card moves with them that you want. But the amazing thing about everything on this project is that all of the tricks are pretty much self-working. I'm trying to think if there's one that isn't, but I don't think there is. I think they are all self-working. So you don't need to know any sleights at all. Having said that, there is a little section on false cuts and false shuffles, because you might want to do that because these cards are in a stack, a numbered stack that you don't have to remember really, because it is also a Quran deck as well. And the cards are marked. They are marked in a couple of ways. They're marked by the great Phil Smith, who is probably the best person at hiding things in plain sight that are on backs of playing cards. So on the back, you've got the number that the card is in the stack. So that takes away what traditionally would be done with a memorized deck. You don't have to worry about that because the back of the card tells you. The number is actually only one way. So if the cards are orientated upside down, as you're looking at them, you might have a bit of trouble reading them. Some numbers are easier to read upside down than others, but they're pretty big, pretty bold, and you can see them from a fair distance, and yet they are remarkably well hidden. I know that doesn't sound possible, but it is. And also they tell you what the picture is on the face of the card as well. But the biggest secret that this deck is hiding is that it is a Quran 101 deck. Al-Quran released his miracle deck back in the 50s, but he wasn't the first to create it. Edward Bagshaw, back in 1928, I believe, invented the first deck that is similar to the Quran deck. Then that was followed by William Larson in 1931, who really sort of developed it, and then finally Audley Walsh in 1938 really sort of made it what the miracle deck that Al-Quran released. He made it into that essentially, but despite all of that, I suspect it goes back even further, and I think Hoffman had mentioned it in the late 1800s, but it is well known to be Al-Quran's deck. And what is very nice is because these are pictures, there's a slight duplicity going on with the images. That means that the Quran principle is super well hidden. So you can either do a broad description, basically, of the image, or you can do a very accurate one. And in that way, that sort of hides it. So here you've got a country lane on a stormy day, or it could be a house, for example. And here you might have, that could either be a person or it's a rock concert or Glastonbury Festival. It's up to you. And in that way, the principle really is very well hidden. So let me just show you some of the images here. They are very nice. They are bold, nicely printed, and they look just great. They look great. It's a really, really nice deck of cards. So let's talk about the main routine. It starts with you having a card selected, which you can either divine at the image or you can show that you've predicted it. You then hand your participant a piece of paper that's got a phrase written on it, and you have them deal the cards down into 4 piles. They then select a card from each pile, open up the piece of paper, and shows that the pictures that they have chosen match your prediction. You can then do some more dealing to choose a card at any number style routine, and then you do a shuffling sequence. When all the face-up cards are removed, they spell out the phrase, "I believe I can influence what you choose," which matches what you've written down on the piece of paper or that is written on the card box. That main routine is 4 phases long and does involve a lot of dealing. I don't mind having lay people deal cards and deal them down into piles. It's what they're used to doing. And when they do it for card tricks, they know that they don't know what's being dealt into any pile. So psychologically, they're almost mixing the cards when they're dealing. The real trick is that you have to fill the airtime. You don't want that silence whilst they're dealing down. So you are going to have to prepare yourself to either talk about the idea of influence or the cards or whether they're creative, anything you can think of to fill that empty silence. Each phase is nice and strong and it does sort of build. Craig puts the used discarded cards back into the box at the end of every phase, so you sort of end up with a nice clean area as well. You do need an extra deck for the card at any number if you're going to include that. I really do like the ending of having the cards spell the phrase, "I believe I can influence what you choose." It is strong. It is fun as well, especially because some of the words are sort of shoehorned in. The I Can, which is a kind of beer made by I or an I brand, and the Choose, for example. It's a great sort of play on words, and it's, you know, your participants will really, really enjoy it, I think, and not see it coming. And that routine, obviously, because of all of the dealing and so on, uses a table, but Craig does teach a nice little walk around version that you can do with the "I can influence you" bit as well. So that's really, really useful. I forgot to actually check how long the tutorial is, but it's split up into 4 or 5 different videos, and they're not chaptered, but at the start it tells you the time that each bit is at. So if you really want to skip through, you can just drag the bar across. So the walk around version of influence is the first thing. You then have a nice little sort of in-depth discussion on the Quran deck and ways of doing reveals and so on with the Quran deck. The Quran deck in itself is a really, really powerful tool. So what you're getting here is incredibly versatile. And if you've got any books like Ted Leslie books or Al Quran's books, obviously you'll have a lot to do with this deck. And of course the teaching throughout is super clear by Craig. But what I do want to point out is that in the course of it, almost just because of his teaching the tricks or he's teaching things like the false shuffles, you learn a lot of techniques just passing by. So they even talk about crimps. I always have a crimped card in my deck. It's one of the easiest ways of locating a spectator's card or resetting a deck back to its original order. Also, there are sort of other principles like toxic that get mentioned that if you don't know, it's taught on here. Really, really useful stuff. Craig and Lloyd go on to teach between them a further sort of dozen or so effects. The first one is the 8-ball production, obviously influenced by John Bannon. One of the cards in here does have a picture of an 8-ball. Then there's a revelation using the lock screen on your phone. Then Lloyd Barnes does a really nice double prediction. It's called Second Sight, I believe, where he predicts 2 cards that you've chosen. Then you have estimate, which is a weighing the cards style routine, normally done with a mem deck. But as I say, because of the markings and the setup on here, you don't need to memorize everything, and you have a real powerhouse of a routine. Woody Arrogant has some brilliant takes on weighing a deck routine. If you want to check that out for ideas, this deck will make it a lot easier. Next up, you've got a brilliant packet trick called Image Swap. Just uses 10 of these cards. It's really powerful. It's a sort of do as I do style effect. It is actually What a Turn Up by Kmart Magic. So if you know that trick, you will know how that is done. It's also, I think it's available on one of the Big Blind Media awesome self-working card tricks, something like that. It is a great effect. You then have a diary prediction. I love a diary prediction. There's something about dates that really is a big hook for people. You know, everyone's got a birthday, everyone's got a special day. So I really do like diary effects. I think it does give an emotional hook to any trick. Then there is a free will style effect. Then there's toxic coincidence, using the toxic force, as I mentioned earlier. That's followed by Jazz ESP, which is you know, matching ESP card style, but with these images instead. Reminded me very much of the work by Hank and Joseph Lee in their Mind Entanglement project. And then you've got Play It Straight Influence, which gives you the influence sentence again, but using John Bannon's Play It Straight from Impossibilia. There are some real corkers amongst that lot. Different ones will appeal to different people, whether you want to go down the stronger mentalism route or whether you want it to be more like a card trick or coincidence. It's up to you. And that was really where I thought the project finished. But then you have over an hour of a sort of creative chat with David Jonathan. David Jonathan invented Snaps, which is also a deck with pictures on. And that's wonderful. I mean, just make yourself a brew, sit down and watch that. David Jonathan is one of the best creators, most prolific creators as well, over the last 10 years. So that's really enjoyable and quite a mind opener to what you can do with this deck. And then if that wasn't enough, Craig manages to put on the end a bonus section, as if it wasn't full of bonuses enough. And that bonus section includes a trick called Will the Photos Match, or Will the Images Match? No, Will the Photo Match, which is based on Larry Becker's Will the Cards Match from his book Stunners in 1990, which Larry actually credits to a guy called Howard Adams from a pamphlet in 1982 called Ramesses. And it's a great trick. A lot of people have played with it. David Regal in Approaching Magic has a wonderful one called Will the Socks Match, which is terrific. And then you have a final routine, which is a light bulb routine by G, which is a lot of fun, but you will need a little extra something that is quite expensive. Hand on heart, I actually think this is one of the best things that Craig has come up with. Let's not forget Lloyd as well. It is, because all of the tricks are so easy and really, really powerful, and the markings are simple. It's more versatile, I think, than a lot of his other offerings, less complicated, and the effects are either strong mentalism or really good card tricks. And the card tricks are sort of hidden as being something else anyway, because you're doing it with these images as opposed to card values. And that just makes it all slightly more interesting. If you do find yourself just performing for friends and family, this project is ideal, because this day you've got so many varied effects on it. You don't have to repeat yourself. You'll get a lot of use out of it. You can do what Craig does with the main routine and sort of build a nice 15-minute set around it up to a nice conclusion, or you can just do a quick trick with it. Even if you don't like the tricks on here, I'm sure with a bit of imagination you'll come up with something else that is brilliant. I think this is Craig and Lloyd at their best. And that is the Infinity Deck by Craig Petty, Lloyd Barnes, $29.99. And next up we have Prime Box by George Iglesias. This is essentially an Amazon delivery box that you can show is empty. You can then pull out some gifts or some purchases and then show that the box is completely empty, and even have the box examined at the end. So the examinability of this at the end is what is really, really clever. Also, the box is surprisingly deceptive. Throughout the tutorial, George talks about the sort of depth illusion that he gets from the box, and how the dimensions of the box and the shape of it really, really help with that. And it's well demonstrated on the tutorial. It is a very fooling illusion. You will get, so the tutorial is over an hour long. I think it's almost an hour and a half long, but a fair chunk of that is spent getting what's in here into an Amazon box. So there is some art and crafts involved, and they're not hard. Obviously, if you can, glue two pieces of cardboard together, you'll be absolutely fine. But you do want to get it right. So do take your time and watch it properly. Don't rush in. But here you go. So this is it. It's all nicely flat packed. You get everything that you need in here. You actually get a spare little something as well, just in case you lose it. So you wanted that included. And so most of the instructions are making this into the box. This is the small one. You can get a much larger one as well. But I think this is ideal for your parlour show, not your big stage show, perhaps, but for your parlour show. After teaching how to put this all together, he then runs through the operation of the box, which is really, really simple. The cleverest bit is how you end up clean with the box being examinable at the end. That is a smart little bit of thinking. And then he runs through some ideas of how you might want to force objects that could be found inside the box. Most of those use some sort of third party, either a sort of a forcing tool or an app or something like that. But it might be worth buying one of those if that is the route you want to go down. And then he talks about some plot suggestions. So you could have the idea that you've received the wrong item from Amazon, and then he changes into the right item. He also runs through an idea for a confabulation routine, which is pretty inventive. And if you use your imagination, you will have to sort of figure out your own methods of certain parts of it. But it's a nice idea of turning this into a confabulation routine. It's sort of slightly better of something that you're ordering, because you might be going somewhere on holiday, you might want to buy something. That's quite a nice little hook for this. Otherwise, it's a great way of introducing some props that you're going to use later on in your show. It is really well designed with the stickers and the tape and the arrow swoosh on the side of the box. It does look like an Amazon box, and the operation is really easy. Operation is quite a big word for what you're doing, and it's very deceptive. I think if you want to introduce something from an empty box, this is hard to beat. That is Prime Box by Twister Magic, just $33.99. Next up, we've got Crazy Dazzle by Adrian Vega. Adrian Vega releasing stuff via Crazy Jokers. This is Crazy Dazzle. It is basically Alex Elmsley's Dazzle trick, which is easily one of the best packet tricks ever. It's very rarely done because it's hard to get the cards. You can make the cards yourself if you're very patient and you're good at splitting them and so on. So you could customize this. It's a lot of work. This trick was part of Alex's Dazzle act, which he was performing in the mid-70s, and he later published in his book Collected Work of Alex Elmsley in volume 2. And I happen to have a copy here. I only get it out to show you, just that Alex kindly signed this for me many moons ago. Now, these were some of the first books that I bought, and in here you've got Between Your Palms, you've got Point of Departure, you've got Dazzle, you've got the Ghost Count, amazing stuff. And he wasn't just a card guy, he has a very good newspaper tear that I use as well. Absolutely brilliant books if you can get hold of them. And Adrian's routine sticks pretty much to Alex's. What was really nice and what Alex had was this sort of Scottish charm and a delivery that was just perfect for this trick. The idea of the trick is that you show you've got a bunch of jokers with one back design. You then remove an extra joker from your pocket with a different back design, put it into the packet, and all of the backs of the jokers turn into that design. You then put that design card to one side, pull out another joker with an entirely different back design. All of the jokers change to that back design. You then put that joker to one side, and then you take out another joker with another back design. They all change into that back, and the trick goes on and on until you bring out a joker with a joker on the back. You put that in the packet, and they all turn into jokers with jokers on the back. The routine is visually amazing, but also in a sort of a humorous way, because you're constantly repeating yourself and constantly changing it. Alex's patter, which was in the books, was sort of dry and clever and perfect for the routine. I think he actually joked that one day he wanted to go to a convention and teach the trick and just have a massive pile of indifferent cards and just keep doing it until everyone fell asleep. So this is why it's hard to make. You do need cards. These are gimmicked in some way. I won't show you exactly how the trick's done, but you need cards with lots of different backs on. These aren't the same as Alex's, but they're nice, they're colourful, and they are all very different. And that's very important. And you also get two jokers. You get a colour joker and a black joker. So you actually get about 18 cards. You only need one set of these jokers. It's up to you whether you use the coloured ones or the black and white ones. And obviously they're not bicycle jokers. Cardstock is good though. Adrian's handling is slightly different. For the broad part of it, it does use the same false count that Alex used. What a surprise, it uses a false count, but he has eliminated one sleight, which makes it slightly easier by one sleight. But that sleight's not difficult at all. So it's a minor change, I would say. I'm not sure how it works being able to produce someone else's trick, but at the same time, I'm very pleased that it's available and that you get these sets of cards, and that the trick is now, easy to access, because I think that was the barrier to people actually performing it, and it is a really, really entertaining trick. I don't want to suggest anyone copies him, but please do watch a performance of Alex performing it, just to get an idea of how much comedy you can get out of it. Adrian teaches it really well, and also there's not too much to learn, because fortunately it is just the same thing again and again and again until you get to the conclusion. It is one of my favourite packet tricks, so what can I say? That is Crazy Dazzle by Adrian Vega and Alex Helmsley. It is $24.99. And finally, but by no means least, we have the Fortune deck by Liam Montier. This is so much more simpler than the Infinity deck. The idea is to introduce this fortune telling deck, which is a sort of tarot card deck for beginners. It's part playing cards, part tarot. Each card's got some sort of meaning written on them. And then you show you've got three cards, one with past, one with present, and one with future written on it. Your participant is asked to just freely name or select a card and place them on either the past, present, or the future. When you turn the past, present, and future cards over, it shows that you have correctly predicted the cards that the participant will choose. It is such a great, simple plot, which is virtually self-working. There is one move that you have to do 3 times, so I would use a little bit of a time delay in between. I wouldn't do it 3 times very quickly in a row, because it is the same slide, and although it's visually deceptive, it is discrepant, so be careful with that. But otherwise, I think it's just such a lovely, simple trick. You've got the hook of tarot and fortune reading, and also being a beginner, so the idea is this is in some way teaching you a little bit about the tarot is very nice. And the freedom of the choice that the participant has really does make it completely baffling. They do go away thinking, I could have just chosen anything. Why did I name those cards? It is stronger than you would believe, given how simple the method is. The cards are really nice. So it comes in this nice little box. So these are the past, present, and future cards. Nice, clearly written. The back design is sort of starry. That's sort of got some sort of astrological feel to it, I think. Very nicely designed, I would say. And each of the cards has a meaning written on them. So here we've got the ace there, and there's a little bit of a meaning up here, which is to help you learn your tarot. I really like it. I think it's a great use of the move. And also, because you get a free choice, it can be a different card every time. You're not limited. There's no forcing involved. It is super clean. Having said that, you do end up dirty. So you do have to put the cards away at the end, put them back in the deck at the end. It's a strong card trick with a great presentation. That is the Fortune deck by Montier, $24.99. And that's it for this week's show, I'm afraid, apart from a little competition. Because I've opened this deck, I thought I can give it away now. So I would like to say, Craig has obviously released Evoke, he's released Mind Blocks, he's now done it with images with this Creativity Infinity deck. I would like to know, if you just leave a comment below, what you would have as the theme of your deck of cards. So for example, it could be, mine would be narrow boats, I guess, or it could be jokes, it could be mugs, whatever it might be. What theme would you give your specially printed deck of cards? Please just put a comment below and I will pick them all out of a hat next week, and you could be the winner of Infinity Deck by Craig Petty and Lloyd Barnes.
I think I ought to see a doctor. Oh, why do you say that? I'm beginning to like the show.
But that's it. I do hope you have enjoyed the show, and I hope you've got some lovely plans for the weekend. I really hope those plans include taking out some magic and going out and having some fun with the best hobby in the world. Bye-bye.